When my daughter asked me why we couldn't go to her best friend's birthday party at the fancy hotel, I told her we had something better planned. I watched her face fall just for a moment before she smiled and said it was okay. That night, after she went to bed, I sat at our small kitchen table and made a decision that would change everything. I decided to lie to my own child. I decided to pretend we weren't poor. I still remember how my hands shook as I counted the last $20 in my wallet. Tomorrow was her school's parent day, and all the other parents would be there with their nice cars and expensive clothes. My daughter, Emma, had been talking about it for weeks. She wanted to show me off to her friends. She wanted them to see that her dad was just as good as their parents. How could I tell her that her dad was barely making rent? How could I explain that the reason we ate pasta every night wasn't because I loved cooking it, but because it was all I could afford? So I made a choice that seemed small at the time, but would grow into something I couldn't control. I decided to create a different story. A story where her father wasn't struggling. A story where we were just like everyone else. The setup. My name is Michael, and I've been raising Emma alone since she was 3 years old. Her mother left us on a rainy Tuesday morning. She said she couldn't do it anymore. She said she was too young to be tied down. I never blamed her, not really. We were both kids ourselves when Emma was born. I was 22, working at a warehouse, trying to finish night school. She was 20, with dreams of traveling the world. After she left, it was just Emma and me in our small apartment. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen so tiny that 2 people could barely stand in it at the same time. But it was home. It was our safe place. Emma's drawings covered the refrigerator. Her toys filled the living room. Her laughter made the walls seem less empty. I worked at a printing company during the day. The pay wasn't much, but it was steady. My boss, Mr. Chen, was a kind man who understood when I needed to leave early to pick up Emma from school. After work, I'd rush to get her, and we'd go home together. She'd do her homework at the kitchen table while I cooked dinner. Always simple things: pasta with butter, rice with vegetables. Sometimes when I got paid, we'd have chicken. Emma never complained. She was 7 years old now, with dark hair like her mother's and my brown eyes. She was smart, too smart sometimes. She noticed things, like how I always said I wasn't hungry when there wasn't enough food. Like how I wore the same shoes every day, even though the sole was starting to come off. Like how we never went to the movies or the mall like her friends did. But she never asked why. She just accepted it. Until that day when everything started to change. It was a Monday morning, and I was making her lunch for school. Peanut butter sandwich, an apple, and a small juice box. The same lunch she took every day. She was sitting at the table, swinging her legs, when she said something that stopped me cold. "Dad, Sophia says her family is going to Disney World for spring break." I kept spreading the peanut butter, trying to keep my voice normal. "That sounds nice." She asked where we're going. I turned around to look at her. She was playing with her pencil, not meeting my eyes. What did you tell her? I said we hadn't decided yet. The lie came so easily from her little mouth. She was already learning to hide our situation, already learning to pretend. My heart broke a little in that moment. Emma, you know we can't. I know, Dad. She looked up at me then, and her smile was so brave it hurt to see. It's okay. I don't really want to go anywhere. I like being home with you. But I could see it in her eyes. The disappointment, the wish for something more. The same look I saw when her classmates talked about their new toys, their family vacations, their big houses. She was starting to understand that we were different, that we had less. That night, I lay in bed thinking about her face, thinking about all the things I couldn't give her: a mother, a big house, vacations, new clothes, all the things that other kids had without even thinking about it. I thought about my own childhood, how my parents had struggled too, how I'd promised myself that my kids would have it better. But here I was, failing at that promise every single day. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. It wasn't a good plan. Looking back now, I can see how foolish it was. But at the time, it felt like the only way to protect her, to give her the confidence she deserved, to let her feel normal, just for a little while. It started small, little lies that seemed harmless. When Emma asked why we didn't have a car like other families, I told her ours was in the shop. "It's a really nice car," I said, "but it needs special parts that take time to order." She believed me without question, and I felt both relieved and guilty. The parent day at school was coming up fast. Emma talked about it every evening. "Mrs. Johnson says all the parents will come and talk about their jobs," she told me over dinner one night. "Sophia's dad is a lawyer. Jake's mom is a doctor. What will you say, Dad?" I swallowed hard. "I work with important documents," I said, which wasn't exactly a lie. I did work with documents at the printing company. I just left out the part about operating the copy machine all day. "Like a businessman?" Her eyes lit up. "Something like that." She clapped her hands, excited. "Can you wear your suit?" I only had one suit. It was old, bought from a thrift store for job interviews years ago. The jacket was too big, and the pants were a little short. But Emma didn't know that. To her, a suit was a suit. "Of course," I said. As Parent Day got closer, the lies grew bigger. Emma asked if she could invite her friend Sophia over to play. I panicked. Our apartment was small and plain. The furniture was old. The TV was tiny. There was no way to hide what we really were. "Our house is being renovated," I told her. "Remember? That's why things are a little messy right now." "Oh, right," she said, though I could see the confusion in her eyes. There was no renovation. There never would be. I started picking her up from school a block away, so other parents wouldn't see that we walked home instead of driving. I told her it was good exercise. "Walking is better for the environment," I said. She nodded seriously, like this was important information. One day, she came home upset. I could tell right away. Her shoulders were slumped, and she went straight to her room without saying hello. I found her sitting on her bed, holding her favorite stuffed bear. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Sophia said I can't come to her birthday party." "Why not?" She said it's at a fancy hotel, and Hermone said it's only for kids who can afford the special activities.
She wiped her nose with her sleeve. I told her we could afford it. I told her we had lots of money. But she said her mom already decided. I sat down next to her, my heart pounding. This was my fault. My lies had put her in this position. Emma, listen. Why don't we have money like everyone else, Dad? The question came out in a rush, like she'd been holding it in for a long time. Why can't we go places? Why don't we have a car? Why do I always have the same lunch? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. How could I explain poverty to a 7-year-old? How could I tell her that I worked as hard as I could, but it was never enough? How could I admit that her father was a failure? We have money, I heard myself say. We have plenty of money. We choose to live simply. It's better this way. We save our money for important things. Like what? Like your college, like your future, like a special surprise I'm planning. Her eyes widened. A surprise? I nodded, hating myself. A big surprise, but you have to be patient. She smiled then, believing me completely, trusting me the way only a child can trust their parent. Okay, Dad, I can wait. That night, I stayed up late, trying to figure out how to keep this lie going. Parent Day was in 2 weeks. I needed to look successful. I needed to seem like the father she was describing to her friends. The father who had money but chose to live simply. The father who was planning a big surprise. I went to a second-hand store the next day during my lunch break. I found a better suit, one that actually fit. It cost $40, which meant we'd be eating pasta for the next 2 weeks, but it looked professional. I bought a used briefcase for $5. I even found a pair of dress shoes that weren't too worn. When I got home, I hid everything in my closet. Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table. She looked up when I came in, smiling. Dad, I told Mrs. Johnson about your important job. She said she's excited to hear about it on Parent Day. That's great, honey. And I told her about our nice car that's being fixed, and about the surprise you're planning. Each word was like a weight on my chest. The lie was growing, spreading to her teacher, to her whole world. But I couldn't stop now. I couldn't see her disappointed face again. I couldn't let her feel less than her classmates. Dad, she was looking at me strangely. Are you okay? I'm fine, just tired from work. From all those important documents. Yes, exactly. She went back to her homework, satisfied. I went to the kitchen to start dinner. Pasta again. I added extra butter to make it seem special. While it cooked, I watched her through the doorway. She was humming to herself, happy, believing in the father I was pretending to be. I thought about my own father then. He had worked in a factory all his life. He never lied to us about being poor. He was honest about our situation, and I had respected him for it. But I also remembered the shame. The free lunch tickets at school, the hand-me-down clothes, the Christmas with only one present each. I remembered promising myself that my children would never feel that shame. But here I was, creating a different kind of shame. A shame built on lies. A shame that would eventually come crashing down. Because lies always do. They always find a way to reveal themselves. The water boiled over on the stove, bringing me back to the present. I rushed to turn down the heat, and Emma called out, "Dad, are you burning dinner again?" "No, everything's fine," I called back. Another lie. Everything was not fine. Everything was getting more complicated by the day.
Parent Day arrived on a bright Thursday morning. I put on my second-hand suit and looked at myself in the mirror. I almost looked like someone important, someone successful, someone who could give his daughter everything she deserved.
Emma was so excited she could barely eat breakfast. "You look so handsome, Dad," she said, beaming at me, "like a real businessman." "Thanks, sweetheart. You ready for today?" "Yes, I told everyone you were coming. Sophia didn't believe me. She said you probably had to work. But I told her you're the boss, so you can come whenever you want." The boss. Another lie she had created to fill in the gaps of my story. I forced a smile. That's right. We walked to school together, but I could feel my heart racing with each step. What if someone recognized me? What if they knew I worked at the printing company? What if another parent had seen me taking the bus? The classroom was full of parents when we arrived. Lawyers in expensive suits, doctors in designer clothes, business owners checking their phones, and me in my thrift store outfit, pretending to belong. Emma pulled me to her desk, proud. "This is my dad," she announced to her table group. The other children looked at me with curious eyes. "What do you do?" a boy asked. Before I could answer, Emma jumped in. "He works with important documents, like a businessman, and we have a really nice car, but it's getting fixed." The boy's mother looked at me with interest. "Oh, what kind of business?" "Financial documents," I said. "Confidential work. I can't really discuss the details." She nodded, impressed. "Of course. That must be very demanding." "It is." Emma glowed beside me. This was what she wanted, to be normal, to have a father who fit in with all the other parents, to not be different. Mrs. Johnson called the parents to attention. One by one, parents stood up to talk about their careers. The lawyer talked about justice. The doctor talked about saving lives. The tech executive talked about innovation. Then it was my turn. I stood up, my legs shaking. Emma watched me with such pride, such complete faith. I couldn't let her down, not here, not in front of everyone. "I work in document management," I began, keeping my voice steady. "I ensure that sensitive financial information is processed correctly and confidentially. It's detail-oriented work that requires precision and discretion." It wasn't a complete lie. I did process documents. I did have to be precise. I just left out that I was making copies, not making decisions. "That sounds important," Mrs. Johnson said warmly. "Emma, you must be very proud of your father." "I am," Emma said, her voice clear and strong. "He works really hard, and he's planning a big surprise for us." Several parents looked at me with curiosity. I felt sweat forming under my collar. "It's nothing," I said quickly. "Just a little family trip we're considering." "Where to?" Sophia's mother asked. She was wearing a designer dress and diamond earrings. Everything about her screamed money. "We haven't decided yet," I said. "Emma and I like to research our options carefully." "How wonderful," she said, but something in her eyes made me uncomfortable, like she could see through my cheap suit to the truth underneath. The rest of Parent Day passed in a blur. I watched Emma interact with her classmates, saw how she held her head high now that I was there, dressed like the other parents, speaking like them. She was happy, truly happy, and that made everything worth it, didn't it? But as we were leaving, Sophia's mother approached me. "Mr. Chen," she said, and my blood ran cold. That was my boss's name, not mine. I started, but my throat was dry. "My mistake," she said, but her smile was knowing. She knew, and if she knew, she might tell others. She might tell her daughter, and Sophia would tell Emma. Emma looked up at me. "Who's Mr. Chen, Dad?" "Nobody," I said. "Just someone who looks like me, I guess." She accepted this, but I could feel the foundation of my lies beginning to crack. We walked home in silence, Emma skipping beside me, unaware that her perfect day was built on a foundation of deception. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Sophia's face, the way she said "my mistake," but clearly meant the opposite, the way she could destroy everything with a few words. The next morning, Emma was quiet at breakfast. "Dad," she said finally, "Sophia said something weird yesterday after school." My heart stopped. What did she say? She said her mom knows where you really work. She said you're not a businessman. She said you're just a copy guy. I set down my coffee cup carefully. "Emma, I told her she was lying. I told her she was just jealous because you're successful and important." Her voice was fierce, defensive. But why would she say that, Dad?" I looked at my daughter, my brave, loyal daughter, who was fighting for my honor, who believed in me so completely, who I had failed by teaching her to lie. "Sometimes people say things that aren't true," I said weakly. "But what if?" She paused, struggling with the words. "What if it is true? What if you do work at a printing place? That's still a good job, right? You still work hard, right?" This was my chance to tell the truth, to end the lies, to teach her that honesty was more important than appearances. But when I looked at her face, I saw fear. Fear that her world was about to change. Fear that everything she had told her friends was a lie. Fear that she would have to face them knowing the truth. "I work with documents," I said again, the lie tasting bitter in my mouth. Emma nodded slowly, but I could see doubt in her eyes for the first time. The pure trust was cracking, just like my lies were cracking. But I kept going, kept pretending, because I didn't know how to stop. The next few weeks were harder. Emma came home with more questions, more comments from Sophia, more doubts. I could see her struggling to hold on to the image I had created. She wanted to believe me, but the evidence was mounting against us. "Dad, why don't we ever go to your office?" she asked one evening. "It's a secure building. They don't allow visitors." "But Jake's dad took his office, and Maya went to her mom's hospital." "Every job is different, sweetheart." She nodded, but I could see her filing this away with all the other things that didn't quite make sense. The car that never got fixed, the renovation that never happened, the surprise that never came. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was 3 weeks before Emma's 8th birthday. She had been talking about it constantly, wondering what the big surprise would be. I had been saving every penny I could, planning to take her to the amusement park. It wasn't Disney World, but it was something real I could give her.